chapter 11. If civic virtue is so frequently lost, it must just be as frequently regained. This is what happens in a fourth turning. While a crisis mood renders societies newly desperate, it also renders them newly capable, which is why a secular winter is to be welcomed as much as feared. As today's Americans look ahead, the challenge is to marshal the coming season's new public energies to achieve positive, not destructive ends. The better we ready ourselves collectively, the more likely we will be not just to survive the crisis, but to apply its fury for good and humane purposes. To prepare for the fourth turning, America can apply the lessons of seasonality. The following suggestions distinguish between actions that the nation can act on now in the unraveling, this is when this was written back in the 90s, and those that are simply not possible before the crisis catalyzes right now. Prepare values. So this is like the first little bullet point here. Forge the consensus and uplift the culture, but don't expect near-term results. America's culture warriors need not worry whether values will return to public life. They always do in a fourth turning with a vengeance. Speeches will become public sermons, schools, civic churches, and art, motivational propaganda. The open questions are which values will reign and whether America's cultural consensus will be broad and imaginative enough to avoid a destructive polarization as the nation fights for its survival. People on all sides of the culture wars should cultivate pragmatic alliances with niches possessing competing visions. Americans of all generations should work to elevate moral and cultural standards. What we do now may not close down many unraveling era carnivals, but will serve two critical long-term purposes: to help protect the world of childhood and to help resacralize public institutions and reinfuse them with a much-needed sense of public purpose. A decadent or nihilistic culture is a seedbed for fascism. The less self-control the media or public exercises now, the more likely it becomes that some outside authority will impose a despotic control tomorrow. So, breaking that down from what I'm reading of that, it stuck out to me: resacralize our public institutions. And meaning colleges, like what we just went through at a university. And also in what's in the really current right now, people are talking about the Smith-Mundt Act, which is reformed in 2013 by Obama, that talks about the propaganda that can be used on American citizens. So when I read this, I started putting together what just happened at the university and knowing what I know, how this said some outside authority, and keeping up with the news, I knew that certain elements of the CCP had already been at work within our institutions and universities and things like that. So I went ahead and pulled up. I think I just can't recall exactly what I Googled, but yeah, just looked up what was going on with the CCP investigations in the universities, and I stumbled across a press release that was released one day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and on 9/11 is when they chose to release it. I don't know if it's coincidence. I don't know if it's a look at the left hand because the right is playing games. And I'm certainly not making any assumptions or conclusions from this. I'm just saying that it is, I just had to look and then I found something. So let me read you the article. All right, this is from the Select Committee on the CCP, aka the Chinese Communist Party. From September 11th, 2025, the Joint Institutes, Divided Loyalties. Now, the Chinese Communist Party exploits U.S. university partnerships to empower China's military and repression. Over the past 2 years, the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party and the Committee on Education and the Workforces Committee's investigations revealed how the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, exploits U.S. universities to fuel its military and technological rise. Last fall, the committees released CCP on the Quad, a report exposing how American researchers, many funded by the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and National Science Foundation, enabled major advancements by the People's Republic of China in nuclear technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and quantum computing. The report also revealed that US PRC joint institutes facilitate technology transfers and pose national security risks. The report provides new findings on joint institutes and other problematic partnerships between US and universities and the PRC. New information on stepped up enforcement of foreign gift disclosure rules and university responses. This investigation 1. Further highlights the risk these partnerships pose. 2. Exposes universities that continue to ignore the risks. 3. Identifies dozens of not yet reported academic collaborations that create risk to U.S. national security. 4. Examines changes in university disclosures of foreign funding. And 5. Reveals the impact of the Trump administration's stepped up enforcement of foreign gift reporting requirements. Joint institutes, entities based in China that pair American universities with Chinese institutions, are not typical academic collaborations that benefit students from both countries. They are under the thumb of the CCP. They operate under the PRC, the People's Republic of China, and are run by Chinese majority boards and have party presence in leadership and are aligned with the CCP's national strategy, including its military buildup. Chinese government funding dominates these joint institutes, and the use of funds is restricted by law to align with CCP goals. Curriculum and research prioritize CCP-defined goals, especially military-relevant science and technology fields. Finally, U.S. institutions agree to PRC impose limits on academic freedom, speech, and governance independence. Since the time of the release of our report and our continued investigations, 8 universities chose to do the right thing for academic freedom and U.S. national security by shuttering their joint institutes with Chinese partners. These include the University of California, Berkeley, Georgia Institute of Technology, the University of Michigan, University of Pittsburgh, Oakland University, University of Detroit, Mercy, Eastern Michigan University, and the University of Illinois. But many others have not. Last fall, the committees identified high-risk joint institutes at the following universities, all of which have failed to act: Duke University, University of Arizona, University of Delaware, Drake University, University of Houston, Keene University, University of Miami, New York University, University of North Alabama, Northeastern State University, Tahlequah, don't know what that is, Portland State University of New York, Stony Brook, and Trine University. Please comment below and let me know if you have been to any of these universities or worked there or know anything about this. Okay. These joint institutes are far from the only collaborations between U.S. universities and Chinese entities that create national security risk. In the follow-on investigation, the committees identified more than 100 additional academic partnerships that involve PRC entities that pose a national security risk. More than 50 such partnerships are described below, along with the national security risk factors. Those partnerships include 3 joint degree programs between U.S. universities and China's 7 Sons of National Defense. The 7 Sons of National Defense are universities handpicked by the CCP to propel China's military and defense research forward. A partnership in submarine engineering research between the University of Houston and Dalian Maritime University, which is supervised by the Chinese defense-focused government agency and partners with Chinese defense conglomerates in engineering research. a dual degree in aircraft power engineering between Xianyang Aerospace University, which is supervised by blacklisted Chinese military company, and the Aviation Industry Corporation of China, the developer of China's fifth-generation stealth fighter, and Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. A joint program in mechanical design, manufacturing, and automation between North China Institute of Aerospace Engineering, a university controlled by blacklisted Chinese military companies that produce China's Long March rockets and other missiles, and St. Martin's University in Washington State. These partnerships must end. The second part of the report examines changes to foreign gift disclosures since the release of CCP on the Quad. After years of inaction by the Biden-Harris administration, the current Trump administration has taken significant steps to bolster enforcement of the foreign contract and gift requirements in current law under Section 117 of the Higher Education Act, known as HEA. Institutions that partner with joint institutes have taken some steps forward toward improved disclosures, but serious gaps still remain. Select Committee Chairman John Molinar and Education and Workforce Chairman Tim Walberg therefore recommend adopting into law the Securing American Funding and Expertise from Adversarial Research Exploitation Act of 2025, called the Safe Research Act, which prohibits federal science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the STEM research funding, to researchers who collaborate with foreign adversary control entities that pose a national security risk, prohibits DoD funding to universities that partner with foreign adversary-controlled entities that pose a national security risk, requires enhanced disclosures of foreign adversarial collaborations, travel, and affiliations from foreign adversary entities. The Safe Research Act was introduced and adopted by the House as an amendment to the fiscal year 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, fiscal year 26 NDAA, which passed the House on September 10th, 2025. We look forward to working expeditiously to move this bill forward and enact it into law. In addition, foreign gift disclosures remain inadequate. The lack of strong enforcement provisions in the law and shortcomings in university reporting still remain and demonstrate the continued need for legislation action such as H.R. 1048, the Defending Education Transparency and Ending Rogue Regimes Engaging in Nefarious Transaction, called the Deterrent Act. The Deterrent Act passed the House on March 27, 2025 by a vote of 241 to 169. It is now awaiting Senate action. The chairman continued to urge the Senate to pass the Deterrent Act expeditiously. And you can read the full report here. Okay, we're not doing that. Oh yeah, so as you can see, it is quite long, extensive, and goes into the different, how everything was broken down by our tax dollars and such, so that they can start stealing so they can steal all of our intellectual property and such for nefarious purposes. I don't know.